Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's going on, brother?
Doing well. Yeah, doing well. The sun is shining. I'm looking forward to the clocks going back. I think this weekend, in fact, so it'll be nice. Light nights starting to roll in. So, yeah, it's good. I'm loving it.
Yeah, I've been loving that here too. So it happens for those that don't know, it happens 2 weeks earlier in the US than it does in the UK, which always causes some fun scheduling changes amongst the guys. Obviously we serve men all over the world, businessmen all over the world. So those time changes are pretty interesting. And here in the States, it's obviously different because different states have different rules. So we'll see how that goes in. Kind of an archaic system, but still nice, as you said. The evenings last night, was reading a book on the couch with my wife, and it was nice to be light out there. And we just kind of went outside and just took in the fresh air.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's about time we get some garden furniture. It's obviously the garden there just overlooks the ocean. So I think we're going to get a nice swing chair. But at the same time, it's been COVID, and apparently there is a shortage of garden furniture. So we shall see.
Yep, there's a shortage of everything, man. Shortage of everything. My sauna is still coming. But, speaking of that, like the garden chair, the patio furniture, my wife and I, on the couch, going outside and then going from the couch to the bedroom. What I want to talk to you today, Tim, is how guys go from arguing 2 to 3 times per week. I've been there. I know you have been, to having sex 2 or 3 times a week, right? That's a big shift when you think about it. As business leaders, we talk about, oftentimes we're in the conversation of our business. I was talking to a guy in the inner circle just yesterday with his team about the possibility of him scaling, right? His business is doing great. That's where a lot of his focus is. But we also want to talk about with the guys, how do you actually go from arguing 2 to 3 times a week where your wife feels like your roommate, a roommate with a ring, but at the same time, you're also looking at divorce because you got one foot out the door going, hey, maybe divorce is the only answer. And chances are your wife has already said the same thing, or you're looking at it. So how do you go from that to going the patio furniture, having a swing, maybe having a swing in the bedroom, and having sex multiple times a week? So are you up for that conversation today?
Yeah, do you want to answer it? Well, so what you do is...
Well, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, I would love the conversation. Let's do it.
Yeah, so when we look at it, I was talking to one of our clients. So one of the guys that now is in the brotherhood, and we were talking about what was going on for him. His name is Mike. I already asked him if I could kind of call him out here. And so when I was talking to Mike about what it was, he was telling me, like, Doug, every time I come home, I'm doing everything that I can to make my wife happy. And we just end up arguing. It seems like no matter what I do, right, she gets upset. She starts arguing with me. We get in a big fight. I get upset, I get mad, and we argue. And no matter all the good stuff I've done goes to waste, right? It's all going to waste. And we tried therapy, right? And that didn't work. So this guy, Tim, invested over a year in marriage counseling with his wife. This is some time ago. And that didn't work either, right? They just kept on rehashing the old problems. So as you know, we talk about this. And so I want to give the guys an idea of why this doesn't work. Is these old methodologies don't work because you're focusing on the past. It's like getting in a high performance sports car and stepping on the gas, but trying to drive looking in the rear view mirror. So you're looking behind you, right? As you're trying to go forward super fast, you're just going to keep crashing, right? And then go, let's get back in the car or get in a new car, new therapist, right? And go again. It just doesn't work. And guys keep doing it. And I don't blame them because that's what most men have been taught. And, for example, in this guy's case, he had an affair. And so when he had that affair, that gets brought up every session with the therapist, right? Then he leaves deflated, upset, basically submissive to his wife because he feels guilty about everything that's going on. She's looking for another guy, right? She's online. He knows, right? She's on her phone. She's looking. And so it's just not working for them guys. And so really when you look at this and the passion that gets lost is, I want to use the analogy of scales, right? So have you seen those 2 scales with the justice scales, right? You have good and evil on each side. And, as evil gets stronger, it tips the scales or what have you. So I want you to picture those in your mind's eye right now. But now this scale is about feelings or experiences, right? On how you're feeling. So for men, when we first meet our woman, the scale is neutral, right? It's balanced because we don't know anything about them. The kind of the first meeting. And then maybe we go on a hike or go out for dinner or dancing or to a club or whatever it may be. And we sprinkle a little bit of weight in the positive emotional experience scale, right? So the scale starts tipping in our favor, right? And theirs. And so the scale, and for those that are listening to the podcast, can't see my great hand analogy here. Um, the negatives just aren't there. The positives so outweigh the negatives that, if you fart in front of your girlfriend at the time, she kind of laughs it off. There's all kinds of things, maybe you do something stupid, she laughs it off. That's funny, right? There's no problems, right? It just water off a duck's back. It's because you're so stacked with positive feelings. Now, what happens when we get married, and it's one of the reasons we get married is the scale is so tipped in our favor, right? Is when we get married, little things start to creep in, resentments, right? Now we're putting a little bit of dust or weight onto the negative one. And then maybe it's an argument. The trash wasn't taken out. An emotional affair is a big weight put on that negative scale, right? Or experience. Resentment. All of these things start creeping in. And what happens is the scale goes to neutral. And as it goes to neutral, it starts picking up weight, picking up steam, right? And it starts to really balance the other way where these negative experiences and emotions, right, are out of whack. There's so many negative ones. And this is the time that most of us guys, and I'm no exception to this rule for my wife and I, we start to go to therapy, right? Because it's not working. We'll go to marital counseling. And most likely the wife's initiated it. But it's so negative that all the marital counselor does is go, let's look at that negative side of the scale. And let's just talk about that. And what that does for a lot of guys is it demasculates them and makes them feel bad, and women as well. And that negative side gets bigger and bigger and heavier. And so you no longer have this balance, right? Let alone being tipped in your favor with positive experiences and emotions, right? And this is a way that a lot of guys are missing this, And so the real problem these guys are facing here isn't that their marriage isn't working, although that's a problem. Isn't that they're not having sex, although that's a problem, and that they're arguing, and that's also a problem. But the real issue is they're so focused on the negative experiences and emotions in the relationship that the scales are unbalanced. They can't actually get anywhere. They can't move forward. It's almost like putting your foot on the gas more when you're stuck in snow. Right here, I live in a mountain town, at the base of a mountain. So there's snow here. I see it all the time. Especially when tourists come, they get into some snow and they're trying to pull out of a parking lot from the resort or what have you, and they just hit the gas. And you see them do that, and you're like, oh man, you're just digging yourself in deeper. Right? It's getting worse and worse and worse. Those tires are just rotating. You see the exhaust going. So they're working hard. The car engine is working so hard, and they're going nowhere. In fact, it's getting worse. And so these problems keep coming. And what we can do is we want to stop focusing on these negative problems, and we want to start balancing out the scale. And so I want to talk about how we can do that here and how we can actually get them back from this. Now, Tim, obviously, you've been coaching guys at a high level for a long time. Have you seen this situation with the scales?
For sure. Easy trap to fall into. And many things that I think back to my experiences and the experiences of the men, there's so many things that add to it that I didn't even realize at the time were adding to it. And making it worse, a lot worse. And, back then, for myself and all the guys that come to us in the beginning, like you, the way to solve it, we think, is to talk about it, right? And often it just makes it so much worse. It doesn't tip the scales back in the right direction at all. I'm sure it does for some people. I've just not met any of them, to be honest. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm sure they do. It didn't work for me. It doesn't work for the guys that come to us. And it sounds like it didn't work for you either.
It made things worse for me, quite honestly. So when I was experiencing this, I I was 1 foot out the door. So was my wife. And then we went to counseling, and now I was 1.75 feet of the way out the door. And so was she, because it just made things worse. We never left happy. We always
Mm.
left in a worse mood when we went. And we tried multiple counselors, right? So when we look at this, guys, again, I want to go back to that analogy of the scales. The things have just become unbalanced. You're focused on the negative. So what we want to do is something totally different. They don't talk about this in therapy books. They don't talk about this in the audiobooks, but this is what works. Is we need to get those scales back to neutral and then back to positive. And the way that we do this is through something we call the Triad of Connection. And we've talked about this in other podcasts. I'm going to go over it just briefly here to give everybody the idea. Now, understand this is something we teach over several weeks. There's a lot of nuances in it, just like anything else. But if you go back to the car that's stuck in the snow with no traction, something I used to carry with me, Tim, when I was traveling around North America in my converted Sprinter van, is these traction pads. And so you stick the traction pads up and the car gets out like this. It just gets grip and traction immediately. So that's kind of what the Triad of Connection does here. So first step is what we call the clean slate method. So with the clean slate method, you just basically wipe it out. It almost brings the scales back to neutral, right? So even no matter how unbalanced they are, oftentimes we hear this from the men, is the clean slate method brings you back to neutral almost immediately. And it takes work. It takes time. I'm not going to talk about not much time, but it takes work and takes courage. But the clean slate method makes you go from negative feelings to neutral feelings quickly. And guys are seeing this super fast, right? When they go through the activation method. The second step, once that's going there, right? Because really what we're doing is getting your trust back from your wife, because you've lost it. You've lost the respect, the trust, the admiration. She doesn't look at you with those eyes that she used to, right? Step two, once we've done the clean slate method, now really what we want to do is get away from the arguments, because the arguments are going to keep stacking those negative feelings on there, right? We want to get back to, holding hands, being nice, and actually falling back into love again. And the way we do this is the second part of the triad, right? This is going to be the hidden motives technique, right? It's also got what's called the relationship rescue protocol that we utilize. And in here, we're going to deal with things that actually really have the relationship withstand any storms, right? That's what we're doing here. The hidden motives technique is super awesome because your wife's not going to know you're using it. That's why it's called the hidden motives technique. And it's super effective. I can't even tell you how much it is because it works so well. Now, the third part of the Triad of Connection is how you now, right? Now we've tipped the scales to neutral, remember, in step one, right? Using the clean slate method. Now we're using the hidden motives technique. And now we have more positive than negative experiences in the relationship very fast. And that's why people are always shocked. They're like, how fast can you guys do this? Well, this is the techniques, you guys, exactly how we do it. Now we're in the positive experiences. Now you're enjoying coming home. Your wife's excited to see you. You're rekindling everything you used to have. Guys commonly say, wow, this is what it was like, when we first got married. But we're going to do better, right? Because we know that if we just do good, we can go back the other way. This is where the third one comes in. What we really want is our wife looking at us with love, admiration, and respect in that deep level, not that temporary stuff where, oh, you got a bonus check, or, oh, you bought a company, or whatever it is, but that deep admiration and respect that you can just see every time you look in her eyes, right? That's what we want. And this is where the Live Like a King system comes in. The Live Like a King system allows you to fortify all of these experiences, right? And fortify those scales. It almost locks the scales in where the positive drastically outweighs the negative experiences, right? These feelings, emotions, and experiences we want to focus on are the positive ones, right? Because when you focus on the positive ones, the negative ones just don't seem to matter, right? The problem is most relationship coaches and therapists, whatever, they have you focus on the negative ones and try to get past them. That's BS. It doesn't work, right? You're human. Humans aren't designed to do that. If someone hits you in the head with the baseball bat, they don't say, hey, just focus on the person hitting you in the head with the base. No, you just don't go there, right? So the Triad of Connection really, it's a simple process. Obviously, the nuances come in. There's a few simple changes, but this is how we see guys with the Triad of Connection going from arguing 2 to 3 times a week to having sex 2 to 3 times a week, looking at new patio furniture for their house overlooking the beach. And it's a way that we've seen hundreds of men doing it. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3. right? It's a different paradigm that most men haven't considered just because they haven't been exposed to it.
Hmm. I think a couple of points, and I love your explanation there. If I'm listening to this, I think I'm putting myself back to when I was in a similar position to the men are in when they come to us. And I might be thinking, wow, that sounds like a lot, right? It's as simple as 1, 2, 3, and it sounds like a lot for me to do. And I'm thinking about the guys that then come to us and experience the biggest shifts. And it's the guys that realize that a lot of the things that we get the men to do using the Triad of Connection are things that we're doing in the beginning. Slightly differently. It's not like you just recreate the beginning. But the point I'm making here is it's not like you've got to become a different man. You've not going to become this perfect, pristine guy who learns all these ninja judo tactics in order to kind of understand the ways of a woman. It's not like that at all. It's actually really simple in many respects. I think the hidden motives technique as well, what I love about it, I can remember when we first came up with that name, we were concerned, weren't we, whether people thought that, hey, is this going to sound like a form of manipulation? Is it going to feel like we're going to manipulate the woman? But it isn't at all. It's about the hidden motives, but it's all about being able to read between those lines as well, right? Of what's really going on in order for you guys to connect so you can, have your motive be there and have it a little bit hidden. So you don't have to talk about it, obviously, and build those pieces of connection instead of focusing on communication, which then, like you said, tips the scale.
Well, so here's the key here, guys, with all of these, and this is why the Triad of Connection works so well. And we have had guys go through the program who were not able to save their marriage, right? It was too far gone, but they're in new relationships that are better than they ever have because they use the same techniques, because they are easy once you understand the nuances with them. The difference is you're not working on your wife. You're working on the thing you control the most and you will always own is yourself, right? Your paradigm, and that paradigm is power, right? The paradigm is power. Just like my son, right? When he doesn't know something, it's super complex. He gets frustrated. It's too complicated, Daddy. I mean, he's turning 4. It's too hard is what he says. And all I do is show him just a little tweak, right, to whatever he's doing. And then he flies, right? It's easy. It's fun. He's enjoying it. He's getting the outcome that he wanted. It's the same thing, right? It's always complex when you don't know the little nuances. Just like business can be, your industry and your business is super complex to somebody on the outside who's following the wrong formula, the wrong pattern. And usually they just need a couple insights and they go, oh, it's really not that complicated. So the hidden motives technique, yes. The reason it's the hidden motives is you're really just taking care of you and you're doing the things with you. I mean, there's a lot of, like I said, I keep saying there's a lot of nuances in it because we'd be talking about this for hours. We go over this over a course of a month with all the other techniques that we teach the guys, but it's actually the application. The hard part is, like with anything, is you've never experienced it before. You've never done it, right? You've done it naturally when you were first getting married, right? And your wife responded to it extremely well, and we fall out of it because it's just not taught. I wish Tim, relationships and finance were taught in schools because it's things that people really could use. But this is the exact strategy that we use to help business leaders all over the world go from arguing 2 to 3 times a week or the cold shoulder to having sex 2 to 3 times a week or more. So guys, go ahead, Tim.
I think it's important to mention the nuances. And the reason I imagine, Doug, why you're saying about the nuances is because the way that it's been designed is to almost be a container, be a framework that has the main pieces in that any businessman is able to then apply. And then also with the nuances, tailor that to his unique situation. Because, every situation, there's patterns that emerge, right? I've worked with thousands of businessmen by now. You see patterns regardless of industries, locations from the UK, US, Canada.
People
you
are
see
people.
Patterns. Yeah. So we're able to come up with the Triad of Connection, and there's also everyone's unique to a degree, so hence the nuances that come into it. And I love that the Triad of Connection gives the ability to do that, because I know for me in the past, trying to fit into a system that wasn't quite working for me and didn't have any flexibility for me to make it my own, made me want to rebel and not use it because it just wasn't working for me. And it wasn't that the system was bad. I'm thinking about things I'd tried before. It wasn't that the system was bad. It just wasn't the right one for me. And I think, from all the heartache that you, myself, Arthur, the other coaches have been through, and the decades worth of exploration that we've got together in diving into this, I'm really pleased that we've been able to distill it down into the Triad of Connection and just be able to hand it to guys. It's, hey, here's the Triad of Connection. Go use it. We're going to help you overcome the challenges that you face when you're using it, but here's the blueprint. Go and deploy that. And the guys that do really, and the guys that use us as coaches as well, obviously, to overcome the challenges, they're the ones that go from arguing 2 or 3 times a week to having sex 2 or 3 times a week. It's great to see. And you know what? One other thing, I'm kind of going off on one because I love the Triad of Connection so much. The fact that I use it every day as well, like I love that. I love that it's a tool that I think I'm going to use it for the rest of my life because it's just so effective.
Yeah, it's the whole analogy: teach a man to fish versus giving him a fish. So that's what we're doing for these guys. So guys, if you're a business owner, we only work with business owners, and you're experiencing something like this, you want to know more, we're putting together a group of guys, 9 men maxed out, right? They're going to be going through this next month. So go ahead and reach out. Just go over to thepowerfulman.com. There'll be a button right there at the bottom that says let's get started. And you can actually reach out and an advisor can talk to you if this sounds like something you're interested in learning more about. It's not a sales call. We don't do those, right? The first call you talk to an alumni person, another guy just like you who's been in this situation and now uses the Triad of Connection. It's gotten out of it and just wants to help other guys like yourself. So gentlemen, it's for business leaders only. Sorry, guys, if you're not a business owner, probably not for you. We're only taking 9 guys this next month. So I do apologize if you're not able to get in. It's an application process. But I'd love for you guys to experience what many of these guys like Mike does that I was talking about. We're going from arguing 2 to 3 times a week, in the cold shoulder, feeling like you're lost in this mess, to actually having passionate sex 2 to 3 times a week. Tim, as always, thank you for being here. Guys, that's a wrap for us here at the Powerful Man Show. If you are interested, make sure you go over. And again, that's thepowerfulman.com. Just hit the get started button. You'll find out some more information. And if you can, you've been with us for a while, always love those ratings when they come in. Tim and I read them and greatly appreciate your honest and authentic feedback in there. It really helps us get this message out to more men like yourselves. Make it a great week. And as always, take action.